Phil Lord and Chris Miller, two of the most influential creators in animation. Their work has helped create some of the most popular anime films to date, like the Lego Movie, The Mitchells vs. the Machines, Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs, and easily their most iconic work, Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. They have undoubtedly made an impact on the animation industry, and it shows. Plus, they are also just really funny guys in general, and are also responsible for the Jump Street movies, which are genuinely hilarious films. But we all have to start off somewhere. Like me, I started off making shitty stop motions when I was 11 on YouTube, and look at me now, reviewing media on YouTube, and totally not wasting my life away. But where did Phil Lord and Chris Miller start off? Most people assume that they got their start at Sony, with Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs, a really fun and charming film that has some of the best cartoony animation I've ever seen from a 3D animated film. But they started off way back in the mystical year of 2002, with a TV series they created for MTV called Clone High. Clone High was an American-Canadian adult animated series that aired on MTV from 2002 to 2003, only lasting one season. The series was created by Lord and Miller along with Bill Lawrence, the creator of Scrubs, a show that I have never seen and don't plan on watching. At first glance, it seems like another average early 2000s adult animated comedy series, and I thought that too. I watched the show way back in 2016, around the same time Rebel Taxi made his video on the show. The first episode felt kind of slow and basic to me, but after watching the entire 13 episodes, I can proudly say that Clone High is one of my favorite adult animated series. It's definitely up there with shows like BoJack Horseman and South Park. Now with the recent news, well, I say recent, but this news is like 2 years old, that Clone High is finally getting second season, I thought, why not make a video on Clone High and talk about what makes it so hilarious and underrated, and also talk about why it was cancelled way too soon. Also know the JFK memes are not funny and they never were funny, so I'll not be bringing them up here, okay? With all that said, let's get into the video. Now, the plot for Clone High does seem pretty standard at first. A typical high school teen drama series, which is what I thought it was going to be like at first. But they put a unique spin on the formula and have the main characters be based on historical figures. We got characters like Abraham Lincoln, who's the nerdy, awkward teen of the show, Joan of Arc, one of Abe's friends and has a secret crush on him. She is also goth, by the way. Gandhi, Abe's best friend and one of my favorite characters in the entire show. It's a shame that he's sort of responsible for the show's cancellation, but we'll get into that later. Cleopatra, the popular girl in school who Abe has a crush on. JFK, the popular jock kid who lots of people love a bit too much for some reason. Don't get me wrong, he is a great character and can be really funny to watch, but I feel like people obsess over him a bit too much. But I'll get into that later. Also, fun fact, he's even voiced by the creator, Chris Miller. Ain't that cool? There's also the evil school principal, Principal Scudworth, who is also voiced by Phil Lord. He is absolutely hilarious and one of the most insane characters in the entire show, but I'll get more into him later. The government brought these historical figures back to life to raise them as military weapons somehow. I don't know, God bless America or something. They all live in USA, a brilliant name by the way, and attend Clone High, where lots of crazy shenanigans ensue. There's also a love plot, and there's a border shadowy figures, and a robot, and lots of weird shit. Now already, this plot seems pretty crazy, with all the historical elements and the weird storyline, but watching the show is pretty easy, since it's carried by the amazing humor and the characters. I was pretty worried that the show would rely on historical references as its main selling point, and while there are some historical references here and there, they don't go too far with the references, and it's still really fun to watch. Like, you don't need to be an expert in history to know what's going on. Hell, I failed history class and I knew everything that was happening. My favorite aspect of the show has to be the humor. Like I said, they don't go for dumb historical references. They actually have some hilarious jokes here, and they don't feel annoying or try to shock you, unlike most modern adult cartoons. It also helps that the show is a parody of those stupid teen dramas that people love for some reason. Back in the early 2000s, these types of shows were everywhere and felt so bland and generic. Oh, look at me, I'm an awkward high school teenager who no one understands. Shut the fuck up, loser. Phil Lord and Chris Miller, along with Bill Lawrence, have a very unique style of humor, and it perfectly shows here. The parody aspect is great, since the show often makes fun of these high school drama tropes and makes for an enjoyable viewing experience. Plus, some of the jokes can be incredibly subtle, and they don't try to shove the jokes into your face, which is another aspect I really appreciate. Another element that really carries the show for me are the characters. All the characters are hilarious and played brilliantly by their respected actors. Abe Lincoln is sort of the main character of the show, and it's so much fun to watch. Like I said earlier, he is the nerdy, awkward teen of the show, and is also a massive Throughout the first few episodes of the show, he has a massive crush on Cleopatra and tries desperately to get with her. Although they put a spin on this trope where Cleo and Abe actually get together and they start dating throughout the series. It's really interesting how they do not have Abe try to get with Cleo for the whole series and they instantly become a couple. This also creates a pretty interesting love triangle between Abe, Cleo, and Joan of Arc. Joan secretly has a crush on Abe, but when Abe and Cleo get together, she still remains friends with Abe and supports him. It's a really interesting and unique spin on the typical love triangle, actually having the nerdy teen get with the popular girl. Joan herself is a pretty good character. Despite how upset she is about the fact that he's dating Cleo, we see her continue to support Abe throughout the series. Plus, she also generated quite a few laughs out of me.
All I'm saying is, a girl is interested in me, and I'm not going to ignore it.
Abe, I want you.
You want me to what? Forgot what you're gonna say. Happens to me all the time.
But I wouldn't call her my favorite character. Some of my favorite characters are the ones who are just weird or straight up crazy, like Gandhi. He plays the role of Abe's best friend and is such a fun and likable character. At first, he may seem like the typical comic relief character, but what makes him stand out is that he is actually funny and has layers to his character. Like Joan, he also plays the role of Abe's best friend. They never paint him as unlikable or annoying. He genuinely cares for Abe and everyone around him, and it's such a joy to watch with his outrageous humor.
Remember how I was so excited about seeing the movie American Pie that I couldn't sleep the night before? And remember that scene where the guy has sex with the pie? Well, I don't. Because I fell asleep in the theater.
Why don't you just rent it?
I found him to be very memorable and one of the best characters. But if we're talking about memorable characters, we have to talk about the most iconic character in the show, JFK. Still not mentioning the memes. He has gained somewhat of a cult following recently, mainly through this clip.
Nothing bad ever happens to the Kennedys!
See, it's funny because he says nothing bad ever happens to the Kennedys, yet something bad proceeds to happen to him.
Comedy gold.
Wait, did I accidentally bring up the meme? While I wouldn't call him the best character, I still found him to be hilarious. Chris Miller does a perfect impression of JFK, and his design somehow looks completely different, yet identical to the real JFK. In the show, he's your typical jock type character, and I could honestly see the real JFK to be a popular jock kid in high school. That's what's really great about this show. All the historical figures fit perfectly into the role they are given. I can totally see Cleopatra as the popular girl, or Joan as the moody teen, JFK as the popular jock, and Gandhi as the crazy party animal is a nice take on what the real Gandhi was like. And there are so many other historical people that populate the school, and they all have their own unique character traits that are so much fun to watch. But the main cast is not just historical figures. We got the evil principal of the show, Principal Scudworth, with his butler, Mr. Butlertron. Both of these characters often have their own side adventure throughout the show, and are super fun to watch. Scudworth is just batshit insane, and has some of the most memorable lines in the show, but there are also layers to his character. Yes, he does have evil intentions with the clones, but you can tell that he genuinely cares about them, which makes his character more three-dimensional. Also, Phil Lord knocks it out of the park with his performance.
If you want to keep your job, you can either write a report proving you know what it's like to be a student at Clone High,
I'll do no such thing.
or I'm to kill you.
I'll title it, What It's Like to Be a Teenage Clone, a Rope of Sand.
Good title, it draws the reader in without giving too much away.
Only issue I have with his character is that sometimes he can be pretty annoying, and his side adventures with Mr. Butlertron can sometimes distract from the main plot, but other than that, they are both amazing characters. There's also the Board of Shadowy Figures, excellent name, who watch over the clones and make sure that they're ready to be used as weapons. I still don't understand how they can be used as weapons, but whatever, it's a cartoon. They are mainly painted as the antagonists of the show, and can be both intimidating yet funny at the same time. It also helps that the co-creator, Bill Lawrence, voices the main shadowy figure, and gives him such a deadpan, monotone voice that I can't help but find it hilarious.
Sorry to disturb you, but there's growing concern among the secret board of shadowy figures that you may be completely insane.
Blasphemy!
Another cool aspect of the show is the amount of celebrity cameos that are present here. The show features tons of early 2000s celebrities that fit into the show greatly, and they don't feel forced in, unlike other shows. There's an episode with Tom Green, the man behind this masterpiece, a rock opera episode about drugs with Jack Black, an episode with Marilyn Manson, and many more characters, like Michael J. Fox playing one of Gandhi's kidneys, and only having 3 lines for some reason.
I miss him.
interesting cameo, not gonna lie. These cameos are surprisingly ambitious for the time, and it's great that they were able to get these recognizable names to appear in certain episodes. Now, while the show was mainly a parody of teen dramas, there's also somewhat of a dark side to this series that you wouldn't really expect. The clones have the pressure of living up to their real historical counterparts, and the character relationships can be pretty interesting to watch. You feel the heavy weight they have to carry with being clones of historical figures. While it is sometimes played for laughs, it can also be pretty serious. The dramatic themes here can be pretty intense sometimes, but like I said, it's mostly played for laughs. The show knows what it is and doesn't take itself too seriously, but the tension really does start to rise around the final episode, where I was really hooked on the show. I want to know what happened to these characters. You could watch the show out of order if you want, but there are some parts where you need to watch episodes in order, like plot lines or character relationships. It's great seeing Abe and Clear's relationship develop throughout the show, and to see characters like JFK and Gandhi change as the show progresses. Plus, there can be some really tender and heartfelt moments with some of the characters. Now, I have talked plenty about story and characters. Another aspect of the show that people love is the animation. The animation is incredibly simple and has lots of sharp edges. This was the main style in the early 2000s, with shows like the Powerpuff Girls, Dexter's Lab, and the Fairly OddParents making it popular. I know the style of animation isn't for everyone, but I personally love it. Each character has their own unique design to them, and the backgrounds are incredibly simple, yet they stand out and are incredibly pleasing to look at. If I were to point out an issue with the animation, it can be pretty standard sometimes, with characters barely moving and just standing in one place. But I still do have an appreciation for the designs, since it really stands out and makes for some really iconic and unique designs. And the use of colors can really help set the mood for certain scenes and create a really nice visual. Again, I understand the animation isn't for everyone, and it does have its issues, but I can't help but admire the unique and angular designs of the characters and backgrounds. One more aspect of the show I briefly want to talk about is the music. The show is filled with early 2000s songs, both licensed and originally created for the show. The band behind most of the music here is the Abandoned Pools. They did the main theme song of the show and some extra music. Firstly, I absolutely adore the main theme song. It perfectly describes what the show's about, with pretty visuals and fantastic music in under 30 seconds. The show also dives into musical numbers here and there, with two great examples being the episode of Marilyn Manson singing about the food pyramid, and the rock opera episode where Jack Black sings this amazing song about smoking raisins. I appreciate how ambitious they went with the music, and not using bland licensed music. Sure, there are some licensed songs sprinkled in here and there, but they all perfectly fit the tone of each scene and make for a great listening experience. If you want a taste of the soundtrack to this series, I would suggest listening to the Abandoned Pools. They are such an amazing band, and the music they made for Clone High is spectacular. Now, with all the praise I've been giving the show, you may be wondering, why was it cancelled? At first, I thought it was due to low ratings, but the main reason is because of the character Gandhi. Around the time Clone High was airing, there was a lot of controversy over the portrayal of Gandhi in the show. The hate for his character got so bad that there was a hunger strike held outside of MTV's offices to remove his character. MTV would apologize for the way they portrayed Gandhi, and stated that Clone High was meant for an American audience, and they never intended to offend other cultures. Despite the controversy, MTV still loved the show and wanted Lord and Miller to pitch a second season without Gandhi. They pitched two different versions for a second season. One where they completely erased Gandhi from the show without any explanation of what happened, and another one where he stays in the show and it's revealed that he is actually a clone of Gary Coleman. MTV loved both pitches and they were down for a second season, but when the pitch went up to Viacom, it was sadly rejected, so any plans for a second series was scrapped. Honestly, I'm sort of glad that the original pitch didn't work out, since Gandhi was one of my favorite characters in the entire show, and it wouldn't feel right if they just erased him from the show like that. But like I said, it is what it is, and Clone High was officially cancelled in 2003. The show would fall into relative obscurity after it was cancelled, but slowly as the years went on, it gained somewhat of a small following, thanks to reruns on Teletoon in Canada, along with MTV too. Eventually, people online started to notice the once forgotten show, and it quickly started to gain relevance again by early 2020. Once the show became popular again, there was a big demand for a reboot or continuation. I won't give away any spoilers, but the final episode that aired ended on a cliffhanger, with new fans craving new episodes, and thanks to its sudden blow up in popularity, the series was finally brought back for a second season after almost 20 years. The new series is scheduled to premiere sometime this year on HBO Max, and I for one cannot wait to see this iconic series return. In conclusion, I absolutely adore this series. While it does have its issues, it makes up for it with great animation, amazing characters, hilarious jokes, and a surprisingly deep and complex story that makes it stand out from other adult cartoons. If you want to check out the series, the entire 13 episodes are available on YouTube. I am so happy that this small series I discovered from when I was only 12 is finally getting the respect it deserves, and I am so excited to see what they have installed for the next series. Also, I successfully didn't bring up any of those stupid JFK memes, except for that one clip. So I win and you lose, take the L. Anyway, I'm gonna go to sleep now since this video took ages to make and I am so fucking tired. Have a good day everyone, or night, I don't know, goodbye.